So the next service area that we have right now is region, and certainly issues with the same kind of issues with quorum, policy, fund flow, contact tracing. All of that is still pertinent on the regional level, contacting other regions. So with that, we asked Nancy to just weigh in very briefly.
Hi, everybody. I'm an addict named Nancy. I'm here from the New Jersey region. I'm currently the regional delegate there. So thank you all for being here. And, you know, I struggled with this topic only because so many best practices have been being shared all over you know, all over the NA communities on COVID and how we deal with it. So specifically for us, the one thing that I take away as a regional trusted servant from this COVID experience is that on a regional level, first and foremost, we need to get out of the way as a region. You know, a lot of our communities here in New Jersey believe that service starts in our backyard. And what we learned more than any other time is that here specifically in this COVID environment is that it's the local people on the streets that are really dealing with the day-to-day changes and challenges. So what we do our services statewide, which is multi-regional, and it's all geographic based in the state of New Jersey. It doesn't matter what area you're a member of, what region you're a member of. If your NA meeting happens in the geographical boundaries of New Jersey, you are included in our databases. So now what do we do with this? Being that when the shutdown started, my phone was blowing up and I was literally getting dozens of messages by the hour of meetings changing and whatnot. So just to speak specifically about some of the things that we did is it took us no time to realize that this was becoming completely unmanageable. And we had probably 800 meetings a week in our tiny little state. We did, our previous RD, who's also a regional trusted servant, reached out to every area. And of course, in this environment, we had to do it via text, via phone, and try to hit every local community on how they can manage what is happening with the meetings at their local place. And we have a function for that on our statewide website, but that's not always adaptable to every single person who's on the ground. And so first and foremost is our regional trusted servant helped every single area set up a calendar that's adaptable to their area website, right? We are working to get the areas incorporated into the BMLT. Most areas insist on posting their meetings rather than having a link to another website, and only a few are now within the BMLT structure. So aside from what we needed to manage on the regional end is we tried to bring those services to the local level. And he set up calendars based on each area's website's structure on how to post what was happening with the meetings. And we pretty much surrendered relatively quickly to in-person because for the most part, there were no meetings in person. How do we post how to connect people on the virtual platform, and where do they find us? So we found that the areas were the best place to do that. And of course, that was a very fluid engagement because before we knew it, then Zoom, which is the platform most used, implemented passwords. So this data was ever evolving. And we decided as a region that we would step away from the regional databases and focus on the local collecting of information, and we will deal with how to upload that later. And that was really going to be the best way to keep this information as up to date as possible. And we, we have a lot of restrictions as far as changes or updates we can make to our website because it's multi-regional, has to be a motion that passes both regions. It's a very formal process, which doesn't lend to us having to make these critical decisions that happen in the moment based on what we were experiencing. So rather than pull information down, what we did is we posted a huge disclaimer on our statewide regional databases, just to post that, look, right now, we believe that any and potentially all meetings may not be meeting due to COVID restrictions. Please refer to their local areas. We have a helpline that is statewide that has both an 800 number and a local number. And part of our helpline services is not only for finding meetings, but we have a collection of volunteers that we utilize an answering service that is a very formal structure attached to it. And any addict or any person, really, it doesn't even have to be an addict, but if you want to connect with an addict, a recovering addict in your local area, you can call this number and you can get names and numbers, men with the men, women with the women, as close to you geographically as possible. So we went into a just networking blitz to try to really push that out. So hopefully we can keep our volunteers abreast of what was currently going on. So if there were newcomers or people that were looking for NA, that hopefully the volunteers were well-versed enough in what was going on is to help direct them to where they can find us, even though it was completely virtual. So we, one other thing that we did and continue to do is that, and I myself recognize as a trusted servant, is that a lot of the information that I need has already been created. And thank you to Eastern New York and Mike, the area that Western Queens that did the workshops. So we began an email blitz of channeling that information out, gathering it once it was compiled. Dennis and the zonal people who had tweaked it enough so those recordings could be distributed, just to share best practices on what was going on there. We worked with our Northern New Jersey brothers and sisters who took on a project of researching, and well, before I get ahead of myself, we believe that region is there to support the groups in the areas. So the other part is we had to remain open to what their needs were. And Mike brought it up, which was about donations. A member in New Jersey had researched all the various donation platforms, the pros and cons for each one, how it would function, what you need to function it. Do you need a bank account? Do you need this? And compiled it and emailed it. So we've been just doing a lot with emailing and blasting out and being available to fill in those gaps. And we're surrendering a lot to the areas. We have since pulled all our in-person meeting data down. That didn't happen immediately. But that was a responsible decision. And, our region is not set up to meet virtual. It's not in our guidelines. So that had some surrender adapted to it. We're still having resistance from members in our region where we're making decisions on a virtual platform because we were never set up to do so. But we have been focused on remaining fluid and listening to what the area's needs are. And there's one last thing I wanted to highlight is we participated in a massively huge conference, our PI committee on an annual basis that happens in Atlantic City. And it's a health fair that has 10,000 attendees or whatever. It's probably one of the biggest ones in the state, and we do it every year. And it was happening right after the COVID shutdown, and they went virtual. So we decided we would agree to do our booth virtually. And none of us had ever created a virtual, fair booth before, and had no idea what we were doing. When we met every week and we agreed to do it, we had vast participation with our zone. And so we have reports that we created in our learned experience from that. So if there's people that here that are participating that might run into that potential opportunity, because it is an opportunity, and we can share with you the things that we learned, and we have pictures of the booth. So other than that, we just try to be as proactive as possible. We reached out to our state representatives about where 12-step fellowship meetings fall in the realm of the COVID requirements. And I didn't expect to receive a response, but I did get a response from them and had a dialogue with them. So the best we're doing right now is just as we learn and see and gather from all of you guys who have done some amazing work through this process, is disseminate that as often and as efficiently and as quickly as we possibly can. And the rest is a more will be revealed, right? So thanks for letting me share.